Slipping Through the Cracks, Part 3.
Trust that you have value to me, and she leaves me tied up with a corpse for company. What's more, I'm left waiting for some thugs to come kidnap me. Some value I clearly am to her.
Strings sat still in her bindings, thoughts churning over her conversation with Shi'nurra as she tried to ignore the stench of blood in her nostrils. She had no way of tracking time, but guessed it had been maybe 2 hours since the mercenary guild master left her. She had long since resigned herself to be unable to get free of her restraints, instead focusing her thoughts on what she had agreed to when the drow presented her with her options. A nagging thought had occurred to the thief which unsettled her.
Was she ever planning on letting me go? Even if I didn't choose to work for her, one of the options was to just leave me here, and she freely admitted that she'd use me how she saw fit. She even made sure Radrel's thugs knew I was here before offering me this agreement. But if she was going to leave me here regardless, then why present me with those options in the first place?
String's gaze drifted as she thought, until it landed on the corpse of Oaken, the smuggler who was supposedly her contact for fencing stolen goods until he betrayed her. Tipped off by Captain Rigger about the sizable bounty on Strings and Aslux, he'd laid his men in wait to grab Strings and subdue her. Unfortunately for Oaken, Shi'nurra had different plans for the night thief. Sickened by the blood-soaked body, Strings turned her head away.
At least I didn't end up like him. I guess there's some advantage to having a price for being taken alive. Though that's not much of a silver lining right now.
Strings' thoughts were interrupted by a loud commotion and voices in the room next door. The muffled sound of heavy footsteps and aggressive voices came through the thin walls, grabbing her attention. She turned her head to look at the door across the room, straining to hear what was being said.
What the fuck happened here then? They're both dead already.
Looks like they killed each other, the stupid pigs. You reckon the night thief's still alive somewhere?
You better hope so. Now keep your trap shut. We don't know who's still alive around here.
The door at the far end of the room to Strings slowly swung open, and a large, scarred man with an eye patch stepped into the room. He slowly crept through the doorframe as his eyes panned the room, searching for danger. His eyes drifted to the dead smuggler before looking over to see Strings, helpless and alone. A twisted grin slowly grew on his face as he gave Strings a look that made her feel like a cornered deer being hunted.
Well, what do we have here? This must be our lucky night, the night thief, all tied up neat and tidy like with the smugglers who caught her dead already. Oi, get your asses here! You useless mongrels, take a look at our prize!
By the Lord of Shadows, Mask has been kind to us tonight.
Too right he has. The sneaky toe rags killed each other. Each wanted a bounty for themselves, no doubt. Looks like the bigger ones slashed the stinker's throat before turning on each other.
Radrel and his thugs approached Strings with hungry looks in their eyes. Despite having been left there by Shi'nurra, Strings found herself hoping the guildmaster was right. The bounty on Karnag was dependent on her being taken alive, though this was a small consolation for the thief as she watched the thugs fall for Shi'nurra's deceit.
You clearly weren't too hard to capture after all, night thief. I don't see what all the fuss was about. You're just a cat with a taste for fancy jewellery.
Hey boss, you might want to see this.
Masel crouched down by Oaken's corpse, looking over the wanted poster and leather-bound notebook that was clutched in his hands. She handed over the small notebook to Radrel, who proceeded to read the open page aloud.
We were unable to obtain the night thief's hoard of golden loot. It seems she's routed the majority of it out of the country. We probed a little deeper into this and we were surprised at what we found. It seems the Tabaxi has a soft spot for a certain unofficial orphanage in Bilnagarth, for they have been the ones to benefit from the night thief's gains. The two elves there, Riffina and Ralakan, used the wealth to try and feed the shelter's lost orphans. I wonder if we can use this against her.
No!
Looks like she has a soft spot for the little runts. Shame she's not going to be able to send them any more. Guess they'll be left to starve.
It gets better. There's a bag of fancy jewels over here. Must be your latest loot. Not your night, is it, cat?
This has been a fine night indeed. I'll take the loot. You two, grab our friend here. And make sure you don't let her slip away or I'll gut both of you myself.
Feeling betrayed by her revealed secrets, Strings watched as Radrel took the pouch of jewellery for himself. His thugs moved either side of her, preparing to take her while being careful not to let her escape. Frustrated at being a pawn in other people's games, Strings could do nothing as Radrel's thugs took her away.
What's taking you so long with that grub? I'm starving here.
Quit your yapping. It's almost done. What about our guest? Are we giving her ready?
Drogo lifted the stirring spoon from the pot of mutton stew and pointed over to Strings with it. Radrel's ruffians had left her tied to one of the many iron grates nearby, near the flow of fresh drinking water. Their camp was in one of the corners of the aqueduct of the city that brought the water to the nobles and the fortress from the hills in the east. Hidden from those on the city's surface, they had secured Strings before starting cooking. Tired and hungry, the enticing smell of the cooking meat only added to Strings' misery as she watched her recent captors start to eat.
Leave her. Just hurry up and dish the food out. About time we got a hot meal.
So much do you reckon you get for a bag of fancy spoils?
Dunno, but I bet it will be a pretty penny. Pels alone must be worth 100 gold or more.
Probably as much as the cat. You just need to know the right folks.
That ain't a problem for you, right, boss? I'll bet you know plenty of people who can fence these off too.
Yeah, of course I do. What do you take me for?
Not to doubt your boss, but that ain't sounding like you do.
Shut it! What do you know? I had a contact, but she wasn't paying enough, so I kept something from her. Why do you think we're riding down here in the first place?
That's why we're stuck down here. Who's this woman who's gotten grown men like us cowering down here like mice?
The one woman you don't want to be on the wrong side of.
The bandits jumped to their feet, spinning around to look in the direction of the new voice that spoke. From her position on the grate, Strings saw Kildrak step out of the shadows, closely followed by Orik and Looping. The three adventurers were kitted out in their full combat gear, with weapons drawn as they exited the small tunnel that they had arrived from. Looping covered his eyes with his paw as he gave the taller of the two dwarves a bemused look.
You didn't quite understand what I meant when I said sneak attack back there, did you, Kildrak?
Ugh. Sneaking's for cowards. Tempest looks poorly on such tactics. The strength of a dwarf's arm is what the Lord of Battle favours, not the softness of their feet.
Moradin's beard, will you two give it?
Kill them!
Strings watched the clashing of weapons with a mix of fear and awe, somewhat regretting mocking the dwarves the last time they had met. Her thoughts were distracted when she saw Radrel fumbling with a set of keys at the gate leading into the ducks. To Strings' astonishment, the ruffian's leader was leaving his followers to be cut down as he attempted to escape into the tunnels. Not wanting her misery to have been in vain, Strings twisted her head in a desperate attempt to work the poorly tied gag free from her mouth.
Looping! Radrel's getting away!
Positioned at the back of the skirmish, Looping knocked a fresh arrow to his bow as he glanced over to Strings. Following her gaze, Looping saw Radrel just as the scarred thug finally managed to unlock the gate before him. As the dwarves struck down the last of Radrel's ruffians, Looping took aim before letting loose his arrow at Radrel. The arrow flew through the gaps in the gate, striking Radrel in the leg as he locked the gate behind him. Face contorted with pain, Radrel gave the group a pained grin as he clutched at his leg.
Oh, still too slow, you scum-sucking Gildrats.
The thug turned and hobbled away into the duct, leaving a trail of blood behind him. With the dwarves having put down the last of Radrel's thugs, Looping dashed forward to the gate.
Locked. That's inconvenient. Can you break it down, Kildrak?
Of course I can. Move your ass!
Wait. You might have left what we're looking for here. We can also take the Night Thief while we're at it.
Good point. You guys are better suited to tunnels than me, so I'll stay here and...
Oh, no you don't, you soft-hearted furball. I ain't leaving you to let her go again.
What's that supposed to mean? Would you rather explain to Shi'nurra that you let Radrel get away because you wanted to catch the Night Thief instead? I can't break through these gates or any others he locks.
He's right, Kildrak, and we haven't got the time to argue about it. Get moving before the trail of blood goes cold.
Fine, but if you go soft on her again, then by Tempest, I will make a rug out of your fur.
Like I haven't heard that one before. Can't you come up with anything more original?
Why, you?
Smash the bloody gate, Kildrak.
The dwarven paladin gave Looping a final glare of warning before lifting his warhammer and striking the aged metal lock on the gate. The lock buckled under the impact of the dwarves' fury, allowing the gate to swing back into the tunnel for the dwarves to make way. Kildrak surged forward, immediately giving chase after the fleeing bandit. Orik quickly followed, but stopped halfway through as he turned to Looping.
Kildrak raised a good point though, lad. We've already lost her once, and you aren't convinced anyone with your story about the dots. Don't let her slip through your fingers again.
His own warning given, Orik chased after Kildrak and Radrel, leaving Lupin and Strings alone in the remains of the makeshift camp. The duck became silent, save for the sound of gently running water as Strings watched Looping begin to search the sacks and small crates around the camp. Shi'nurra's words came to mind.
Looping has his strengths, but lying isn't one of them. He's also protective of children, so tell him about the orphans your activities support, and he'll let you go.
Despite Shi'nurra's instruction, Strings was reluctant to reveal her secret for yet another person to know. Everything felt as though it had been spun out beyond her control, with this knowledge being the only thing that she felt like she had any control left over. However, the bite of the ropes restraining her were a reminder that she didn't have many other options, and the dwarves' warnings to Looping didn't give her much hope.
I wasn't sure what we'd find down here, but I wasn't expecting to find you. The dwarves or Captain Rigger are one thing, but to be caught by a couple of backstreet thugs? I'm almost insulted given how easily you picked my own gold from me.
It's been a long night. I don't suppose you'd be willing to just let me go?
I'm afraid not. You heard the dwarves. For some reason, they don't seem to believe that I didn't let you go last time. Of course I did, but they don't need to know that. It was also because you saved me from being fish food. Would have been poor thanks if I dragged you to the guards after that.
But you said I had nothing to fear from you. You wouldn't hunt me for bounty. Or is your word worth nothing more than the dishonest words of these thugs?
Oof, that's a little harsh. I'm not the one who tied you to that grate. Nor am I doing anything to keep you here. I'm not going to actively seek you out, but if you're daft enough to get captured by some run-of-the-mill ruffians that I'm hunting, I'm not going to free you.
And yet you saved me from Captain Rigger. You don't feel like coming to my rescue again?
Rigger was going to tie you to an anchor and leave you to drown as you tried with me. The dwarves will just be taking you to guards where you'll be locked up for a while. Besides, if I actively let you go instead of just not stopping you, then it's not Kildrak I'd be worried about. Shi'nurra would skin me alive.
Strings opened her mouth as if to speak, but thought better of it. The image of Olban's corpse came to mind, froth still gathering at the corner of his mouth from the poison that killed him. Strings couldn't reveal that Shi'nurra intended for the ranger to free her without revealing the drow's influence. While Strings didn't currently feel inclined to win Shi'nurra's favour, she was wary of drawing her ire. She watched Looping search through the bags of stale bread and dried fruit as she slowly realised her only way to escape would be to do as Shi'nurra instructed. Another thought crossed the thief's mind as she remembered the necklace that Shi'nurra had placed in her pocket.
How did you find us anyway? The aqueduct's not the most obvious place to look, and they run for miles under the city. There's no way you just happened to stumble into the man you were looking for?
Shi'nurra told me when she ordered us to do this task for her. Said we could find Radrel in the northeast corner of the aqueducts. Put us close enough for me to be able to track them down. As for how she knew, only her and the gods know, and I'm a lot less scared of the gods.
That's what that necklace was for.
An arm suddenly appeared around Strings, wrapping around her throat. For the second time that night, Strings felt a dagger pressed against her throat as Drogo hid behind her. Looping whirled around on the spot, drawing his bow and knocking an arrow as he did so, aiming it directly at Drogo.
Not so fast, Fleabag, or your little friend here will see your outside stained with her own blood.
No, not again! By the nine hells, leave me alone!
Shut it! And you, drop your bow. She's coming with me. The bounty's mine.
That's not going to happen.
Do it, or she dies.
And what do you think will happen next? If you cut her throat, then there's nothing stopping me from shooting you. Unless you like the sound of capturing an arrow with your eyeball, you refrain from killing her.
Strings' eyes widened as she looked at Looping with fear. Looping was playing with fire, banking that Drogo's sense of survival would outstrip his desire for gold. The thief drew a shaky breath and tried to keep her composure, the long night taking its toll on her. Drogo glared at Looping, shifting his stance slightly to try and stay hidden behind his hostage. His other arm hung limp, blood still dripping down it from a shoulder wound after the earlier skirmish.
Blast it, you furry bastard! Now what then? We just stand here all night? I wait till your dwarf little rats come back. What if we split the bounty? 500 gold each is still a pretty penny.
Excellent idea. You run along and leave Strings here. I'll send you your share later on.
What kind of fool do you take me for? What about her latest loot? You can have that, and it's worth nearly as much as I reckon. Not like it's making its way to those wretched orphans.
Orphans?
Strings took a sharp breath before looking away from Looping as she sensed the one thing she still felt like she had control of in her life was slipping through her fingers. Looping's face quickly lost its easygoing expression, instead forming an intense glare as the ranger held the thug's gaze. Drogo gave a pained laugh in response, either not sensing the change in the ranger's attitude or simply not caring.
Did you know? This one's got a soft heart. Sends most of her plunder back to an orphanage in Bilnagath. Supposedly run by some elvish pricks. Most likely a front of some kind. Loot helps them feed the wretched shits, or put some clothes on their backs. Such a fucking waste. Should have had just left the ungrateful rat to starve and used the gold for herself. Maybe then she would find herself tied.
The arm around Strings released her as she heard the dull thud of something falling behind her. Confused, she opened her eyes and turned her head to try and look behind her. From her limited view, she saw the body of Drogo laying unmoving on the floor with an arrow sticking out of his eye. Bewildered, the thief slowly looked back over to Looping. The ranger stood still as a rock, unmoving, with his bow still held before him. Looping's face was hard and unmoving, while his eyes burned with an anger that Strings had not seen before. For the first time since she had met the ranger, Strings was terrified of him.
What? Hey, what are you doing? Don't...
Strings panicked as Looping silently drew a dagger and strode towards her. She frantically pulled at the bindings as Looping approached, only to freeze as the ranger wordlessly cut her loose from the grate. Her mobility restored for the first time in several hours, Strings almost fell to the floor as she staggered away from Looping before slowly standing up again. Her gaze never left Looping's as she stood, filled with a mix of fear and confusion at her sudden release.
What are you doing?
Letting you go.
But... why? You said you wouldn't.
That was before I knew about the children. You should have told me. Now go, before the dwarves return.
Strings stared at Looping, confusion written on her face as she searched for further reasoning behind his sudden change of heart. Finding none, she took a tentative step back, still watching him as if expecting Looping to grab her. When the ranger made no attempt to stop her, Strings relaxed a little as she realized she was truly free.
Thank you.
Strings turned and fled, fear and adrenaline fueling her still cramped legs as she bolted into the darkness. Looping made no movements as the thief quickly vanished into the night and continued to stand still for a few minutes after. Only the sound of running water could be heard through the aqueduct as the ranger stood, watching down the tunnel that Strings left by. Eventually, Looping turned his focus back to the makeshift camp and continued to search for Shi'nurra's task. Neither the guildmaster nor the dwarves were going to be pleased that he had released Strings, and he had no intention of lying to them this time. If they wanted Strings, they could catch her themselves.